In today's world of conveyor belt produced games, which are too similar to each other to make an impression on a half-present player, the original titles which give you unforgettable experiences are a true rarity. Clair Obscur, Expedition 33, with all of its awards earned back in Anno Domini 2025, promises you just that. But is it really what it seems? That's what I'm trying to investigate in this episode. Clicking on the game for the first time, I had already tempered expectations, because I knew that oftentimes I find fatal flaws in highly praised productions. Still, I wanted the game to be at least half as good as many people claimed. Okay, no more stalling, let's do this. Troll me sideways, but Clair Obscur has one of the strongest prologues in video gaming history. Some may say it was a blatant copy of an idea from Marvel Universe. And it somewhat is, but at the same time it's different enough to be its own thing. There is plenty of shocking scenes, some told by cutscenes, others by environmental storytelling. The writers and environmental designers for this title had many good ideas. It is nice to see something that fresh, yet something that reminds me of RPGs from decades ago. The inspirations are clear for an eye of a veteran RPG player, yet there is something unique about the whole thing. Interestingly enough, the whole storytelling in this game is faithful to the tradition of RPGs made by Japanese studios, and very serious moments and themes are intertwined with silly, ridiculous ones, that often nearing breaking the fourth wall. Unfortunately, it is one thing to treat your creation too seriously, and treating it not serious enough is another. The latter is a sad fact in the first act of story told in Expedition 33. Writers had a great idea, and I guess they decided to mess it all up. Fortunately, it is way better by the time we land in the second act. Anyways, oftentimes you discover former expeditions logs, and too often you learn about stupid mistakes that they made. It is ridiculous. I yearn for days of survival horrors and RPGs with top-tier side stories told in the notes left behind here and there. Fortunately, that is not very important, as almost whole meat when it comes to the writing is in the main theme of the game, but I cannot talk about it, as discovering it is too precious to spoil in some random internet bozzo's review. However, RPG games often live and die depending on the characters depicted in them. In Clair Obscur, I liked characters when they were serious and honest. I didn't much enjoy the snarky and immature scenes. It reminded me too much of bad ones from modern gaming cinema and TV. Speaking of which, the campsite dialogues are nowhere near the level of Baldur's Gate 3. At least cutscenes there are decent enough, so it recompenses it a little bit. But still, some dialogues are composed of so cringe sentences, noises and gesture exchanges that it makes me wonder if it was left to do for a mentally handicapped intern or one of the writer's kids. This is beyond my understanding. And why the hell we got relationships levels? I know it's a game, but gamifying relationships is never an immersive experience. I will admit they get a little better after a while, like almost everything in the game. Still, even if you hate them, you are encouraged to go through those because they unlock powerful attacks, so there's that. Gustav, as the only man from the starting bunch, should have been a rock for his fellow female expeditioners, but he ain't acting very masculine. I would even dare to say he is the least masculine from the whole bunch, including his 16 years old adopted daughter, for crying out loud. At least Verso is a strong silent type, capable of sacrifices in order to set things right. Other than that, our playable characters talk so much nonsense even in so brief moments like burying their dead. So many times I had an urge to slap them across their faces and scream, "Take the red pill and wake up already, goddammit." Jeez Louise, it made me so mad, so much wasted potential, and for it to be good, writers needed only to delete some text, nothing more. Who was overseeing what's got into the final cut? What the fuck is going on? I am losing my mind, and of course it gets much better the further the player dives into the story. The funny thing is that I liked the story told here more and more the further I was. I like it more at hour 10 than hour 5, more at hour 15 than hour 10. It was for sure because it got more and more serious by the hour. But how many people will have a patience for this very slow unraveling? That's the real question here. I myself continued because I was insistent like a maniac to find all the good things people talked about when the game released back in 2025. And I was really glad the game took me only around 32 hours, so it never overwhelmed its stay. Even though I thought several times in a row that I was watching the final cutscene of the game. I guess this is how they got me to change my mind in the very end. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. I am sorry to say that the writing is not pure in Clair Obscur Expedition 33. What do I mean by that? Well, the thing is that there are some very ugly worldviews smuggled into this game, and I don't like it one bit. I will not tell what they are, as I do not participate in spreading detrimental information. Shame on writers for that. Shame. 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 In other news, I saw what the real plot was from very early on, yet the game kept me guessing if I was right indeed, and that's a sign that someone have foreseen it and constructed the main plot accordingly. Very well done indeed. I must admit I was very impressed by the maneuvers done in the script. I could not have done better myself. The story itself and the way it's told is way above average, so I need to admit overall it's a positive aspect that makes the game better. Even if I don't agree with some elements of it and I would gladly make some changes. It is what it is and I appreciate it nonetheless. I was pretty satisfied with how it all ended, and that's a very rare thing to occur. So summing it up, the storytelling was very strong in prologue, lackluster in the Act 1 and only got better from there, up to one of the best endings in gaming history. So that was the story aspect of the title. How about the gameplay then? This time around I will not start with combat but all the things outside of it. Firstly, when you rest at the expedition flag, you pay for health regen with respawning of enemies, so it is kinda Souls-like or an old RPG mechanic. Maybe it was done so players can grind levels or something. I don't know, as I found medium difficulty just right. Lower one was almost automatic win, so it was indeed like the name said, story mode. The hardest difficulty I did not touch, as on medium some fights were giving me enough trouble, so I had to get good a little bit. I guess that's an encroaching into combat, as outside of it you just run around, find some loot in dark corners and trigger game scripts, and that's pretty much it. So, not trolling around the bush any longer. Combat is turn-based, it plays like old Square Enix or Capcom RPGs. You know, Final Fantasy, Chrono Cross, Breath of Fire and the likes. It uses tactical system like building and spending resources, mixing elements to form more powerful combos. It is nothing new, but it's nice to play something old and decent. What is not nice is the QTE events during combat. I never liked and will never like them, so that's bad. I was happy to discover that there is an option in accessibility settings to make attack events autocomplete, so I use it even if at first it felt a little bit like cheating, but later on I appreciated that I can watch my team's skill animations instead of tracking icons that tell me when to press spacebar. Another thing is, why the hell there is 2 rows of skills you switch between instead of putting all 6 on one screen? 6 is not that much, what in the hell? Combat is fine as long as you are getting new skills and passives to try out, but in ancient times I always preferred turn-based combat with movement element. It added tactical depth. Good examples were Final Fantasy Tactics and First Follow games. It's like comparing cards and chess. In cards you can only pick the card you play, but in chess you pick both figure and move to make. Getting more buttons to press for quick time events cannot compare to the tactical movement. No sir, it cannot indeed. Moreover, I don't know why we have enemies with high dodge percentage, which you need to shoot. Interesting interplays change into shooting, using items and timing parries perfectly for counter damage. I truly dislike dodging enemies with passion. Okay, that's enough about combat. On the other hand, people responsible for designing locations deserve an extra credit. Without such an original looking zones and levels, the game would ring hollow. The intricacies of those locations combined with music compose the atmosphere that otherwise would be severely lacking and just felt like another run-of-the-mill Unreal Engine slab. Someone could say that we've seen similar ideas and areas in other games, but I would argue that there is finite number of overarching themes that fit together to make the wholesome and believable game level. At the same time, I think the success of it depends heavily on execution, and the execution in this game is particularly good and vibrant in how it feels for the player. I mean, the further you go, the more you appreciate cohesive vision and pure artistry of environments. The game Clair Obscur reminds me the most of is Elden Ring. Maybe because of all the golden light swords all over the place, and some strange elements that look kinda similar. Nah, it is similar in the aspect that graphics itself ain't on very high level, but the artistic vision and execution, the style and cohesion is on a master level, and that's more important than ultra fidelity of picture. It's more about the feelings and less about the precision. The game is a string of closed-up locations, executed one by one. It is hard to miss items and so-called secrets, but at the same time, it often can confuse player and make it a labyrinth of not-so-complicated layouts just because the whole location looks pretty much the same in every corner, with very few distinct orientation points. All in all, the different areas that you will go through are the main eye candy of the game, and I oftentimes catch myself scrolling camera slowly and admiring the artistic vision. The interesting part about the gameplay is the fact that automatic saves occur so often that you don't need to be stressed about repeating large portions of already played game. It is maybe the best I have seen in any video game ever. On top of that, it doesn't even make the game stutter, pure magic considering the slim amount of technical engineers in development team. User interface could be better because oftentimes it's hard to see which thing to click in the menu to get the result you are after. It was especially annoying when changing character skill slots, but after some hours I have learned it so well that it was navigating like I was the one designing it. I thought the gameplay was so bad that only intriguing story kept me from uninstalling the game. Later on I was so used to it that I didn't notice how it made me feel. Later on I started to enjoy it even if it wasn't what I wanted initially. It is really wondrous how all the game elements seems to get better and better the longer you play. I don't remember the last time I've observed something like this. Now it's time to dissect Clair Obscur Expedition 33 on a technical level, and boy oh boy, it is a journey unto itself. Firstly and mostly I have to say that actors for this game have done a fantastic job. I believed them, which is the most important aspect of acting, and the emotions they conveyed in their performances. Oh man. There was never a disjointed moment that's just fantastic. Voice acting and animation captures oftentimes are very good in games, but here they catch a lightning in the bottle. It was simply magical. Don't get me wrong, there are many games with good acting performed by great actors, but in this one it feels different, maybe because the game itself is different. Despite the fact it doesn't have anything brand new, never seen before, but the sum of its parts make so beautiful whole that I cannot wonder enough how that was possible. Okay, but not everything is perfect here, far from it. The game looks good, but there are some Unreal Engine painful flaws, which engineers and the development team did not manage to improve. Firstly, shadows on the different settings have different flows. From my testing, medium setting was the least flowed. Another big one is the smearing of particle effects on some elements of environment. Good thing most of particles are fine, but the smeary ones are the worst I have seen in a while. Image is kinda noisy, probably because of default lumen settings. Some people use config file modification to set lower sharpness, but I prefer to have slightly over-sharpened picture over the blurry one. It is better for long-term health of human eyes for sure. Pre-rendered cutscenes plenty of times look like shite, thanks to the grainy filter, which next to perfect black letterbox area of an OLED monitor looks like the stuff from nightmares. Fortunately, the cutscenes themselves are so good and emotional that you forget about flawed picture in no time. Character models suffer from default Unreal Engine disease. The proportions and animations of arms and forearms are horrendous and distract me in yet another title. The hair strands are noisy and even using native resolution, they looked low resolution, so you have to accept it for what it is. I find the fact that character models are not animated during their conversations whilst traversing terrain. It feels like we are back to 90s and early 2000s indeed. And even when they are animated in cutscenes, lip sync seems almost non-existent. It is that bad. Background NPC animations are of very pure quality as well. Additionally, many NPCs in dialogue scenes have very similar faces. I guess low gene pool after the fracture could be an explanation, but still it felt creepy to watch. But from the technical side, it's yet another disadvantage of using character model generating tool built into the Unreal Engine. From the positive aspects of visuals, I am glad that developers didn't hesitate to show death and destruction appropriately, with no self-censorship. We need more of that, cause I am sick and tired of clean-looking environments in so many games. In that aspect, it's more similar to Dark Souls and alike titles, more so than its turn-based brethren. We have to give credit where credit is due. Game performance is very stable. After testing and optimizing settings for my PC, adding frame generation, I was playing in over 200 FPS most of the time, without any hitches or over nonsense. I was actually impressed that the game didn't slow down despite heavy NPC crowds in the first location. I mean, they were very static with bad animations and all, but still pretty impressive nonetheless. When it comes to the audio side of the game, that must be the only aspect of Clair Obscur that was perfect from start to finish. Music is beautiful and distinct, which is a rarity in recent years. The soundtrack contains some of the most emotional pieces that I can recall from my memories. Partly because I speak very little French, so I don't understand most of the vocals, but mostly because the composition and instruments used are just in perfect harmony with what's going on the screen. I almost forgot it was the norm 2 or 3 decades ago, but now it's a rare case indeed. I oftentimes admit how the game's soundtrack is very good, but this one is on another level. It's a benchmark for any future productions. Ambient sounds are very well placed and they fit like a glove in this title. They are ethereal, subtle, and they do make you wonder. The only thing I could nitpick was that sometimes the attack sounds in combat were a little bit too loud at their peaks, but not so much to make me turn down the volume of the game. So, a non-issue in fact. Voice acting, as mentioned before, is top tier indeed, and there is no discussion to be had there. When it comes to bugs and glitches, I was shocked because, despite and maybe because of a small studio size and lack of heavy engineering team, I encountered exactly 0 bugs, glitches or any technical nonsense whatsoever. I don't recall any other game in recent years that didn't spill on me with annoying glitches or crashes at least once. Brava for Sunfall Interactive Studio. So here we are, on the prefaces of the end of this review. There are many things that I would like to say, but still, the strong emotions connected to the game named Clair Obscur Expedition 33 cloud my judgment and determine the ability to think clearly. For so much awarded and decorated game, I wasn't expecting so many flaws. The game is kinda under-engineered, and no wonder, as the word on the interwebs has it, that there was only 4 people who actually knew how to write code in C++. Still, despite that in some technical aspects, it is better than some of the most over-engineered triple or quadruple A titles. I don't know how much people get fooled by pretty views combined with pretty music. Clair Obscur is a nice looking and sounding shell, but it's almost all empty inside after the prologue for several hours. But then happens something magical. Game is getting better and better with every passing moment. It is a rarity in gaming world, not to be taken for granted. So you can say I got fooled myself, but I am not sure in which way. Maybe in every way possible. What Expedition 33 was the most successful in was making me miss the good old console RPGs. Jeez Louise, what a wonderful times I had with good old Final Fantasy and Breath of Fire series, not mentioning many other singular titles. The thing is that I need to recommend this game for you guys to play, because it's way above average, despite the fact it made me somewhat mad so many times in the middle part of it. I guess it's the collage of best and worst gaming qualities. Still, it is an obligatory position for any video game connoisseur. This game is not the sum of its parts, but the unique piece in gaming history on itself. In parts, it is not as good as I hoped, but I met the game halfway and in the end, I was satisfied with the experience that got out of it. In conclusion, Clair Obscur Expedition 33 was worse than I thought in the first half and better than I thought in the second. I recommend it to all the players who want to experience something beautiful. That's it, and that's that. Whew, I got tired with this one, as it was hell of a ride and a roller coaster of emotions. Anyways, that's it for now, and I will see you in another great late review.